Hello, my name is Dr. Jacqueline, and I'm with DTP-Leadership Group, and this is Hot Topic Bold Talk. This is podcast 100 for me. And I title it Lies, Deception, and Harm: How Trump's Policies Threaten America's Future. Now, I want to start with Trump's false claims and separate them out from fact and make sure that you understand what's fiction and what's fact. In the Washington Post, in their fact checker section, which I think is very valuable, they send out often the truth where Trump has made some comment and they know it's a lie. Glenn Kessler wrote the truth in his article, Obama and Biden Achievements That Trump Claims for Himself. Now, here are some examples. And what they start out the article with is say that regular readers like you and me, they want to document the false claims that the former President Donald Trump makes, so that we can understand what he didn't achieve and what others did. But there are also instances when Trump claims credit for something that either former Barack Obama or President Biden did, and he did not do anything with it. I want to give you some examples. Capping insulin at $35 a month. Biden passed a law that provided the benefits to all seniors. Trump had a temporary and voluntary pilot program for some. That's it. Lowest black unemployment rate. Trump did set a record, but Biden has beaten it significantly. Passed VA choice. Obama signed a law that the veterans could go to private doctors. Trump signed a minor update. Save the auto industry. That was Obama. Auto jobs fell during Trump. And in fact, I will comment more about how he could destroy the auto industry was one of his ideas. Now, Trump has released an ad about the economy, which he says is in trouble. And his ad is very non-factual. It's not true. He says their Bidenomics, which he created the word, led to the highest inflation in 40 years. Here's the fact. Inflation hit 9% in June of 2022, but now it's at 2.5%, roughly equal to the inflation rate in January of 2020 when Trump was president. Next claim, highest gas prices ever. That's also 2022, and the gas prices are much lower now. Adjusted for inflation, gas prices under Biden did not reach a record high. Another claim, income down. The median household income tells for the 3 straight years, including Trump's last year in office, but 2 weeks before the ad was released, the Census Bureau says that the median household income rose from 4% in 2023 to $80,610, the first increase since 2019. Now, I encourage you to get the fact checker from the Washington Post. I think it's very helpful. It's email at washingtonpost.com if you'd like to. I want to talk about the distorted reality that Trump's dark vision has for America. Donald Trump's imaginary and frightening world, and the article is written by Ashley Parker and it's in the Washington Post, which gives us a glimpse into Trump's world. In his imaginary world, Americans can't venture out to buy a loaf of bread because they're going to get shot, murdered, mugged, or raped. World War III and economic collapses are just around the corner as far as he's concerned. And kids head off to school only to return at the day's end having undergone gender confirming surgery. If you see his tweets from his social media, you're going to see a lot of this. The former president's image of the world is dark. It's described by Trump to his rallies and interviews and social media posts and debate appearance to paint an alarming picture of America under Biden and Harris administration. All of this, they say in the article, it's a distortion, it's warped, and at times it is absurd, the portrait that he has of our nation, where he talks about insurrectionists who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, which all of us know is a deadly effort, were not, and he describes them as merely peaceful protesters. He has extreme caricatures, and he uses those as a way for him to traffic lies and misinformation, using an alternative reality which he has made up in his own mind and hopes to terrify, and hopefully people will become devastated by what he's saying, and it will also be difficult for his political opponents, but more to get the votes of his supporters. There's no one that engages with him that won't get some kind of comments. Trump falsely claimed that Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, has said that abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. Walz never said that. And the Washington Post checker found that execution after birth is illegal in all of our states. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in 2021, nearly all abortions, 93.5%, occur at or before 13 weeks, and fewer than 1% are performed after 21 weeks. But it's usually because there is a severe problem with the mother. Another example is shortly after news that the former Republican Vice President Dick Cheney and his daughter Liz Cheney announced that they were going to vote for Harris, Trump took to his Truth Social site to attack them. And here's his quote: "I'm the peace president, and only I will stop World War III," he claims. Here's what's being said about Trump, and I think this is very important, one that is in there are many in that article. But here's one I think is real and it's very appropriate. He's not the same candidate he was in 2016 or 2020, says Simon Rosenberg. He's a Democratic strategist who took note of Trump's imaginary world and they posed on X this month. He's far more diminished and untethered, excuse me. So I think that's important. And I see it too. Been in the mental health business for a long time. Its deterioration is very difficult to watch. So why do some people support Trump despite his lies? I've been asked that question so many times, and I've been looking for various things, and I think I finally found an article that describes it better than any I've seen. It's titled, "Among Trump supporters, some seem to accept his false claims as unsellable truths, while others see it as only exaggerations." Now, I will tell you, I'll go into an article soon that will give more detail of this, but I just want to give you some comments that I realized because some of these comments are coming from my previous article that I mentioned. But I think what's happening is we are accurately capturing the fear about real issues facing our nation by these individuals that support him. They live in fear. He feeds their fear. And then we go on. Each article I've read shows me that Trump supporters can only support him by doing several things: rationalizing what he's doing, giving excuses for what he's doing, and then expanding the lies Trump tells so they can attempt to make his comments real by repeating them. That's what people do when they're lost in a cult mentality. And I think that's what mega Republicans are, is a cult mentality. But what they do is they try to repeat stuff so they can make it themselves believe it, and then also hope that somebody else believes it. If you want more articles of his lies and misinformation, then you will really want to read this article. It's excellent. And remember, you get all my resources. Always, I list them for you. Now, the violence stoked by Trump's dangerous rhetoric. Let me show you how Trump's lies have increased violence for others. A perfect example, of course, is his attack on Haitians. There also is something that has happened that I see. The Public Citizen does come out of Washington, D.C., but it describes so many times what is happening in Texas. And it's sad to watch it. But I just want to describe to you, because I think the Public Citizen is a very good article and it has some excellent comments, and I think it's really worthwhile for you to consider it. Currently, Texas is controlled by mega Republicans. Now, I say currently because there's a real uprising going on in my state. But here are examples of a few of the threats they have given the public citizens. And that's true of anyone that receives any kind of backlash from Trump. But here's what they've written. What they've been told, the individual that is head of the organization has written his email, and what it says is, this is what they receive daily. I will kill you without remorse. We will eradicate scum like Public Citizen. I would rip you apart limb from limb if given the chance. You should die slowly in horrible pain. We hope and pray you die. The FBI should lock you up and anyone who supports you. Get the F out of our country. And that's what they listen to. That's the reason I give them some donations, because I think Public Citizen has some great messages for us. They've done one on the Supreme Court that I'm going to be using in another podcast. Political bullying in Ohio. Trump's influence in local leaders. Here's one that I just want to go. And there's another one where a judge was killed. But here's one. The Ohio sheriff says to write down addresses of homes with Harris signs. This is in Portage County, Ohio. Sheriff Bruce Zakorski, a Republican, told residents to do this. This is an article from the Washington Post, and it's by a wonderful woman that I think writes beautifully. The sheriff's suggestions are that there will be an influx of undocumented immigrants if Harris wins. And here's the quote from the article itself. In Monday's post on X, the American Civil Liberties Union of Ohio condemned the sheriff's comments, adding that putting up political signs was most decidedly protected core First Amendment speech. The sheriff's statements have stoked fear among the Portage County residents, which is 180 miles northeast of Clark County, where Springfield is located. They've named the sheriff his actions as bullying, and the Republican Party is trying to get him to resign. Now let's look at exploiting shame and how Trump has tapped into rural America's pain. I think this is also very disturbing. And I feel sad about this. I think it's not right to use people that are struggling to already create more pain for them. If you want to know how white America can vote for Trump, then you really need to read this Time magazine article. And the title of it is How Trump Weaponized White Rural America's Shame by Arlie Russell Child. There are many good points in this article that I think you may want to know. But I, as a PhD, I appreciate when a writer goes step by step to tell you and me how shame and fear have been utilized by Trump, and then he turns it around into blame of others. And so I think Hochschild has done an excellent job. And I want to read it to you because I think he has something that's really valuable about it. Here's his quote. His supporters hear in his words an anti-shame ritual. This ritual is composed of 4 moments. In moment 1, Trump says something transgressive. To take an example, when he announced his presidential bid in 2015, he declared, when Mexico sends its people, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, and they're rapists. In moment 2, the punditry, that means the experts themselves, shame Trump about what he's saying, in essence. And so then what he does, what they're saying to him is, you can't say that. How disgraceful. And that's been said many, many times about it. NBC, which hosted Celebrity Apprentice, announced it was severing ties due to the recent derogatory statements by Donald Trump. And that happened, ages ago, but it's still what happened. In moment 3, though, Trump turns to his followers saying, in effect, they hurt me. NBC hurt me, and he's got a list of them that hurt him. I'm in pain as you. I'm suffering for you. Then comes moment 4 of the anti-shame ritual. I think it's the most important. Trump roars back at the shamers, NBC, so you're weak and you're so foolish. I will protect you against these causes that distress you. So this is his message to his followers. So I think it's highly manipulative, and it's very disturbing to see what he's doing with people. Now, the article goes on to say, as the book of Proverbs says, without wood, there is no fire. Sadly, the wood kindling this fire, burning slowly in the declining white working class since the 1970s, is shame. And the politics attached to it is dangerous to all of us, the article says. The way forward is to think back through the emotional logic of the anti-shaming ritual from moment 1, moment 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, and the situation that's made that ritual so strongly appealing in the first place to his supporters. Now, Vice President Harris asked all of us at the debate to go to a Trump rally. Now, I'm not very excited doing that, but I think there is a great preview of what happens at the Trump rallies in Charlie Warsel's article, The Trump Posts You Probably Aren't Seeing. And I think you need to look at them because they're very disturbing. This is in the Atlantic. This is an article about the disturbing and honest description of Trump's tweeting that has been going on for years. Warcel encourages all of us to go back and look at the statements that have not been deleted, because a lot of them are deleted quickly from Trump's Truth Social post, which will give you a picture of what he sees as a declining America, which he preaches all the time to his supporters. I think Trump is correct. I've worked with addiction a long time, and I think Trump is addicted to tweeting. He has no control over it, and he doesn't want to have any control over it because he wants to say in his tweets what he wants to say. But I think he's on a high all the time when he does this kind of stuff. As is a statement from the article that describes these tweets, here's what is the comment. On his own website, Trump doesn't just appear unfit for the highest office in the land. He seems small, embittered, and under the influence of the kind of online outrage that usually consumes those who feel alienated by the broad swaths of society. These, unlike on television, his fragmented attention, peculiar thinking, and dangerous words cannot be hidden and be explained away when you read what he is writing. And that's what we need to look at, what he's writing, because we're going to see the real him. And I think you need to see the real him to see what's going on. Now, in the 5-minute fix by Amber Phillips with the Washington Post, she has some very good points. She shows how Trump's attempting to blame Democrats for the assassinations attempts against him. But here are their points. Number one, Trump has made policy proposals and statements that could weaken democracy. David Alexander Bateman is a democracy expert at Cornell University, and he says the following about Trump. Trump is a threat to our democracy. By this point, less a political opinion than it is reasoned and well-informed analysis of the people who study this most closely. And he's one of them that studies it most closely. And he's saying, we've studied him. He is a threat to our democracy. Two, he's the one accelerating violent rhetoric more so than any other guy. Trump has embraced violent rhetoric throughout his political career in ways other mainstream politicians are not going to do. He has encouraged rally attendees to beat up hecklers, celebrates the January 6, 2021 rioters as hostages and promises to release them from jail if elected. He describes his opponents as vermins, says immigrants are poisoning the blood of their country, calls the media his enemy, warned if he loses, it's going to be a bloodbath for the country. So someone that names all those things, I've already named this before, but that kind of talk, that kind of losing of reality and so forth is it's no longer narcissistic, it's sociopathic. Trump's big ideas that will destroy our country. I want to give you some, because I honestly want to stop having to, or choosing more to write about these things about him, because I do want you to know what he's doing that could be very destructive. Trump's big idea would stunt U.S. growth and spur inflation. And this one is in the Washington Post. And what is said in this article is the damage he would do is much worse than anything an anti-business liberal might offer. And it talks about a number of different politicians and how they couldn't possibly do the things that he's suggesting. Now, I want you to know that I grew up in Odessa, Texas. So I've lived in all country, growing up years. And of course, I live in Texas and I work in I've been a consultant to all industries for 41 years. So I really appreciate what Robin Myers has done in the New York Times, because he starts, the title of the article is Trump's Obsession with Oil Could Destroy America's Auto Industry. And to me, it was very good to read it, because I really understood progressively all the things that he's done that have put us in the place where we are today. That it could be even more detrimental if he were elected again. In 2010, this comes from the article. In 2010, when Trump came into office, he proudly tore up dozens of policies that were to lower American greenhouse gas emissions and build a competitive domestic clean energy industry. He prioritized oil, coal, and natural gas over wind, solar, and batteries, which increased emissions by design. It's his design. Today, the United States finds itself badly lagging behind China, not just in hybrid and electric vehicles, but also in many other crucial industries such as solar, wind, and battery production, as well as the refining of minerals. Those were the cause of just one Trump term. Myers goes on to say that Trump will devastate America's growing electric vehicle industry, and his obsession with fossil fuels has blinded him to what will drive industrial competitiveness in the future. And if you look at what Harris and Walzer suggesting in the economy and the competitive process, you're going to see something very different. Now, Vance's description of the healthcare system to replace Obamacare is also addressed in the Washington Post. And here's their title: Trump's concepts and plans would destroy the healthcare system. And this is by Catherine Rumpel. And she, I spent years working with insurance companies because I was a therapist for many years and do coaching organizational now, but I still know a great deal about them. And the key issue that Vance and Trump are trying to say is they want to allow insurers to discriminate based on age or pre-existing conditions. Well, number one, their idea is politically unpopular. And number two, it would probably cause the insurance market to implode because their plan, if you read through and listen to it, it makes no sense. It's not going to work the way they're describing it. We've already had that. So I want you to remember the expensive insurance pre-Obamacare. And Rampel warns us to be overly cautious the next time Vance or other Republicans promise us choices in healthcare and health insurance, because the real choice they're offering you is the option of never being sick. And that's what really happened pre-Obamacare. So, I'm telling you these stories because I want you to know what he is doing. So you will know, and when you talk to others, you can tell them things that are clear, and you can read the articles yourself because I've given you the references. So standing against Trump lies for a better future is the way I want to end this podcast. And I want to tell you a story. And it occurred in Time magazine by Philip Elliott, who's an outstanding writer. How Trump lies are recharging efforts to help Springfield's Haitians. And here's the comments, and I want to read it directly from the article. More than 300 people recently packed into a Springfield, Ohio virtual meeting room. Their goal? To address the wholly unnecessary crisis Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and their allies had dropped into their laps in Springfield. Despite pleas from everyone from the Republican governor of Ohio on down to stop, the former president and his running mate have continued to falsely accuse Springfield's Haitian community of poaching pets for meals. That's why so many local social service pros gathered last week to firm up a plan to ensure Springfield's possibly 20,000 strong Asian community not only makes it through this crisis, but comes out on the other side. And I think this is amazing when you think about it being a Republican, having a Republican governor and a number of Republicans in that state. When we come together, we know what we're working for. Carrie Lee, Peter Russia, the executive director of the local United Way chapter, tells me we're working to make this a more inclusive and united community. And I smiled to myself. So there's been so much criticism of DEI. That's exactly what DEI does, is to to really build inclusive and united communities. Now we can call it cultural competency and inclusion and social justice as well as what they're doing. In the face of Trump's damaging lies and divisive policies, communities like Springfield are showing that unity and truth can prevail. By addressing false accusations and working to strengthen local ties, these efforts demonstrate the power of resilience in overcoming hate and division. And I want us to look at the future. It's clear that the fight against misinformation and destructive policies, which would reshape America, we need to not do because we don't want to leave the next generation with the problems that Trump has created. That means voting for Harris and Walz, all Democrats and Republicans that support our democracy, and not support individuals running for political office that are Trump supporters that would try to destroy what we have in America. Thank you so much for listening to me. And I want to say, if you have any comments to me, I'd love to hear them. And you are welcome to find me on DTP-Leadership.com. Thank you so much.